Well, hey everybody, back with another section of notes, and it's going to be 1-3 analyzing data with a scatter plot. And I wrote a couple of ordered pairs up in the top right corner, which if you're able to write those, that'd be great. But those are just a couple of examples that I'm going to refer to. So let's jump right into it. So a scatter plot is a graph that relates two groups of data. Okay. A scatter plot is a graph that relates two groups of data. So if you look at number one, or excuse me, if you look at the information written in red, you notice that there's two numbers there, 1, comma 2. So there's two numbers. Your number 1 is your x value, and that number 2 is your y value. Okay, but that right there, those are called ordered pairs. So the red is an ordered pair, the blue is an ordered pair, and the green is a third ordered pair. So an ordered pair is two numbers that we're going to relate or group together on this graph. Okay, so to make a scatter plot, plot the two groups of data as ordered pairs. And I will show you that here momentarily, but to make a scatter plot, plot the two groups of data as ordered pairs. I'm going to jump over for a second here to my next slide. I have that same information written up top. You'll notice the ordered pair of 1 and 2. So the way that we do this is a coordinate plane. And notice that this line that goes horizontally or from side to side, this is your x. Okay, your x-axis. And the line that goes up and down or top to bottom is your y. Okay, so when you group these ordered pairs together, you're going to take those two numbers, in this case 1 and 2, you're going to find the 1 on the x-axis, and you're going to find the 2 on the y-axis, and find that point where they intersect. Okay, so in my black pen, on the x-axis, 1 is right here. Okay, on the y-axis, 2 is right here. Where those both collide, this point is where you would graph that ordered pair. Okay, let's try again with 2 and 4. Okay, so 2 is the first number, which is always going to be found on the x-axis. Okay, so that's going to be right here. And then the y-axis, it's 4. So that is going to be graphed right there. If we do 3 and 6, remember the 3 is on the x-axis, the 6 is the y-axis. You meet where those two intersect. That would be another dot. I'm just going to finish this out. So 4 and 8, you find 4 on the x-axis. You go up to 8 on the y-axis, and there would be another dot. And finally, 5 and 10. That ordered pair, you're going to find the 5 on the x-axis, and you're going to find the 10 on the y-axis, and where those two intersect, it's going to go right there. So that's how you graph these ordered pairs, okay? One of the things that I'm going to jump back to our notes, and then I might jump back really briefly. I apologize to this graph, and I'm sorry for all the jumping around, but I think it just explains things a bit better. So again, a scatter plot is a graph that relates two groups of data, so your x and y values. And to make a scatter plot, you plot the two groups of data as ordered pairs, as I just showed you. Most scatter plots are in the first quadrant, and the first quadrant is the upper right-hand corner of the coordinate plane, because the data are usually positive. And as I warned you, I'm going to go right back to my portion here. This top right, or the first quadrant up here, most of your scatter plots are going to go there because it's positive numbers. It's positive on the x-axis is over here, and positive on the y-axis would be over in this quadrant. When you start going the other direction, on the y-axis, it's negative over in this quadrant. And with the y-axis, it starts to go in the negative direction down here. Okay, so that's the reason why, at least with scatter plots, we're generally going to be up in this quadrant right here, because we're working with positive numbers. Okay, now we have a positive correlation and a negative correlation. So both sets of data increase together. Okay, the example that I just did for you is a perfect example of a positive correlation. So let's look. As my x values go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so do my y values, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Everything, as we move along in those ordered pairs, the numbers are increasing. And then also an easy way you can see it on this graph is that everything is moving in this direction. Okay? When things are moving in that positive direction, it is a positive correlation. So there's a positive correlation between that data. Okay? Just the opposite is a negative correlation. When one set of data decreases as the other set increases. Okay? So I'll try to create an example of that here. So one set of data increases. 1 second. I actually think I have some. Well, let's finish this. So negative correlation is when one set of data decreases as the other set increases. With a positive correlation, both sets of data increase. With a negative correlation, one set of data decreases as the other set increases. And then once in a while, you may see ordered pairs or data that just has no correlation. So the x value and y values are just completely unrelated. And sometimes data sets are just not related, and that is identified as having no correlation. Okay? I think these pictures will probably show this off a little better, but I'll show it over there on my screen in a second. A trend line, so we're here at C, a trend line on a scatter plot shows the correlation more clearly. So notice here, with a positive correlation, in general, both sets of data increase together. You can kind of see it increasing. That would be a positive correlation. Real quick, because I know you probably would have these questions, you do not have to write these charts and words below here. If just write my notes above, please. These are just examples. Negative correlation, in general, one set of data decreases as the other set increases. Negative correlation is going down in this direction. So as one set of data increases, in this example, with this negative correlation, the x values would be increasing, but notice the y values are making the trend go downward. So negative correlation means that they're moving downward, or one of those data sets is, all of those data sets are decreasing. And then finally, no correlation is just when your dots are all over the place. Looking at that graph there, I can't really draw an arrow to tell you what direction that data is going. There's dots everywhere. There's no real pattern of what direction those things are moving. Okay. Last little bit down here, a trend line on a scatter plot shows a correlation more clearly. Okay. So as I drew above, look at positive correlation. See, all those dots are moving in a positive or upward trajectory there. That line that I drew, kind of showing the direction that data is moving, is called a trend line. You can actually draw a line showing what direction the data is going. And then negative correlation the same thing. The arrow that I drew, it started up at the top of that chart, but as the x-axis increased, the y-axis decreased, showing a negative correlation or a downward trend line. Okay, and then no correlation, you can't even draw a trend line, right? Things are all over the place. There's really no trend. Okay, so that's how you do a scatter plot. As we move along, I'm going to have you guys create your own scatter plots. We'll do them, together as a class on certain situations, but hopefully we at least understand the basics of a scatter plot. Thank you for watching.